Before we begin, super quick spoiler warning. You have until the arrow hits the bullseye until we start raining spoilers.
Are you ready?
Kingpin, Echo, Black Widow, Kate Bishop, my boys over at the Tracksuit Mafia. You know, it's nice that the relatable King Hawkeye finally has a series, but like, is this really his show? There are so many moving parts in Disney Plus's Hawkeye that surely there had to be some drawbacks behind the scenes. Because when you use a bow, you kinda...
Can I see you out?
Alright, here's some behind the scenes secrets for Hawkeye. November 29th, 2018 was an absolute day of reckoning. It was revealed that Daredevil had been canceled by Netflix.
When you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Nowadays, Netflix accesses shows quicker than they can buy them, but at the time, it was devastating. Then we found out it would be years until the rights reverted back to Marvel proper. But now the time has finally come. The King has returned. Our favorite door-smashing, art-loving juggernaut of a man, Wilson Fisk, has graced the silver screen once again. Sorry, is that a Hawaiian shirt? Yeah, the costume was goofy, but it was directly requested by Vincent D'Onofrio himself.
But why?
The costume is actually directly pulled from the Amazing Spider-Man's family business arc. In that series, we see the Kingpin start to operate in Europe after losing his grip of the criminal empire of NYC. While we don't know for certain if all of Daredevil is canon, Vincent D'Onofrio certainly believes so. In the actor's headcanon, the character has had a similar arc to that of the family business storyline since we've last seen him. He thinks that Kingpin was a victim of the blip, and that in the 5 years of his absence, the crime lord lost most of everything, leading to where he is at in Hawkeye. Another fun little reference is the Kingpin's cane. In the comics, it's about as corny as a trick arrow. It's called the Disintegrator, and I'm sure you can guess what it does. Maybe this is further evidence that the events of Daredevil is canon, as the last time we saw Fisk, Bullseye had run quite the number on his leg. We did it! Us theater kids have finally infiltrated the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I have seen so many naysayers about the post-credits scene, but all 9 of us Broadway and MCU fans were living for this moment. The musical numbers were written by Mark Shaman, who is an absolute legend, having written the music of Hairspray. He's even included in the show as the composer for the production. Another Broadway superstar, Adam Pascal of Rent fame, introduces the post-credits scene, and what follows is a flurry of cameos from the Great White Way as Avengers. The poster for Rogers the Musical was inspired by the poster for a little off-Broadway musical called Hamilton. The creative team would pass by a billboard of the production on their way to the writing room.
Everywhere I go, I see his face.
So they decided to incorporate it into the design of Rogers. This musical billboard can actually be seen in a few shots across Spider-Man No Way Home. This was never actually the intention, but because Spidey was pushed back to be released after Hawkeye, they digitally inserted the Star-Spangled Man to tie into the events of the series.
I want to see the new and improved Statue of Liberty.
It's just a shame that we didn't get to see the web-slinger make a quick cameo during the final battle of Hawkeye. I totally thought that that's what the final swing had set up. Marvel is known to play it pretty fast and loose with their adaptations. I mean, going back to Spider-Man, No Way Home was a loose adaptation of One More Day. But like, thank God that it's loose because, oh, it's way better than that run. That being said, Hawkeye was heavily based on Matt Fraction's run of the titular Archer. From the witty banter between the seasoned Hawkeye and the wide-eyed Kate Bishop to the opening title crawl that was directly inspired by artist David Aja. It's all there. My favorite inspiration has to be how both series dealt with hearing loss. Issue 19 of Fraction's run features moments where characters are talking, but their speech bubbles are empty. It's a genius way to get the readers to get a feel of what it's like to be the hero in that moment. This was adapted in the series with the audio tuning out during moments where Hawkeye lost his hearing aid and during POVs of Echo. Speaking of Echo, what an addition! This was Aliqua Cox's first ever acting gig, and she handled it like a champ. The actress is deaf in real life, so the stars of the series did their best to make her feel comfortable as she stepped into this life-changing opportunity. Jeremy Renner learned basic ASL to say hello and exchange pleasantries, while Hailee Steinfeld learned how to sign her name. Aliqua Cox's lifelong experiences dealing with American Sign Language was a massive asset for the showrunners Bert and Bertie. Everyone in the series has their own unique understanding of the language. People like Kazi are fluent, while others like Clint have dabbled with it.
Yeah, sorry. Hard of hearing, not deaf.
To accurately portray the varying degrees of understanding, Aliqua became crucial during filming, using her real-life experiences to give pointers on how to act. Since we're talking about Echo, her stand-in for Maya at a young age looks strikingly like her grown-up counterpart. That's because she's actually Aliqua's cousin. Alright, let's talk about that one-shot car chase. I mean, how can we not?
Come on! Let's go!
It was designed to appear as one take to put the audience in the middle of the action. By having the chase be continuous, you, the audience member, can feel like you're participating in all the action. Just, without the threat of a PIM arrow flying directly into your home. Filming for the chase took place in both New York and Atlanta, with the two locations strategically stitched together as they couldn't shut down enough road in New York. Which, honestly, yeah, that makes sense. Traffic's already a nightmare there. Imagine being stuck in gridlock and then seeing Jeremy Renner driving a car like an absolute mad lad, as Academy Award nominee Hailee Steinfeld is just hanging out of it. Actually, I take that back. That would be awesome. Apparently, the car chase only took 5 takes, and they ended up using one of the first because the explosive energy between the two leads. The only part that wasn't filmed on real streets is once they hit the Manhattan Bridge, but even that still fully featured stunt driving. Hawkeye fans may have noticed a certain 1970s car. The Dodge Challenger that Hawkeye refuses to break into is another fun little Easter egg to Matt Fraction's take on the character, as that was Clint's vehicle during that time. That car chase was cool and all, but we've got to make way for the biggest battle in the MCU since Endgame's final brawl. Of course, I'm talking about the live-action roleplay scene, baby.
Live action roleplay is, this whole thing.
Grills and his squad were a great addition to the series. They were really able to play up the humanity of Hawkeye, and as it turns out, this addition was made possible because of Jeremy Renner himself. Speaking on the subject, he said, "It was pitched to me and I was like, we gotta have that in there. Based on my personal experience at Comic-Cons and these environments, it's just me sort of saying, hey man, I love the fans." As it turns out, most of the LARPers seen in the background of the battle scene are actually fans themselves. Marvel knew that the internet would call out if the LARPing scenes were done unfaithfully, so most of the background actors are legitimate live-action role players themselves. It's getting to a point where I am really starting to question, what can't Hailee Steinfeld do? I mean, she was nominated for an Academy Award at age 14. She had a chart-topping hit single that wouldn't stop playing on the radio. Heck, she's even a Spider-Gwen.
I'm from another dimension. I mean, another dimension.
Hailee was fan-cast as Kate Bishop from the get-go. Matt Fraction himself has even said that she's an Annie Wu drawing come to life, and that's precisely because, like Kate, Hailee can seem to do anything she's interested in. So, of course, when it came time to learn archery, it was an absolute breeze for her. Well, kind of. In preparation for the role, Hailee watched as many archery videos as humanly possible and went to private archery lessons before landing in Atlanta to film. Super proud of her abilities, she gleefully showed off the flex to Jeremy Renner, who immediately put her down a few levels, informing her that the arrows will be CGI, and all that work was mostly for nothing. Now that the entire series has been released, it's kind of crazy to look back at the history of the MCU and remember that there was a solid chance that Hawkeye would have never returned post-Civil War.
I retire for, like 5 minutes and it all goes to shit.
Infinity War and Endgame were filmed simultaneously, which was a commitment that Jeremy Renner didn't want to dedicate 2 years of his life towards. He told the real-life Kingpin, Kevin Feige, that he simply wasn't interested in all those hours because he wanted to dedicate more time towards his daughter. So, as a way of art imitating life, that's exactly what they had Clint Barton do in Infinity War, with the balance being that he'd actually be in Endgame instead.
Perfectly balanced. This whole thing should be.
With this in mind, the entire "I just want to spend time with my kids, but I gotta go be Hawkeye for a bit" makes the story all that more sad. Seeing Kate and Yelena's chemistry in the scene where Yelena makes a quick stopover to Kate's burnt apartment was so good, for a second I completely forgot that Yelena was a hired assassin, surveying Kate to kill her partner. The scene is fairly low-key and really outlines how in tune both of the actresses are with their characters, and that's primarily due to the banter being almost exclusively improv. The improv starts with the cutlery line, which, since we're on that topic, I completely understand you, Kate. The mac and cheese bit was also improvised. Turns out Florence Pugh is just a fan of heat.
Yes.
Hailee, on the other hand, not so much. Well, this next one goes out to all my fellow Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed fans. How could you have possibly watched that movie and not wanted Linda Cardellini as a superhero? I mean, if Pepper Potts was able to suit up and kick alien butt, Why does Laura Burton have to be a stay-at-home mom? Turns out Linda Cardellini was always pushing for Laura to be a retired superhero, and this was the perfect opportunity to finally retcon that into the lore. Of course, she's Agent 19, aka Mockingbird, who is Hawkeye's ex-wife in the comics. Maybe this will play into a potential season 2. If not, it's a nice little bit of backstory to how Clint and Laura met. Can we get the Hawkeyes a jetpack? I mean, clearly falling from heights is a major issue. Multiple times in the series, we see Kate and Clint have some pretty daunting trips. You'd think that after what Clint saw on Vormir, he would have at least asked Stark for one of his 85 different Iron Man boots.
Yeah, I can fly.